Hello everyone, and welcome to a very nice game between Peter Svidler and Magnus Carlsen. It's a match basically that celebrates the anniversary, the 5th anniversary of Chess24, and they are about to play a match. First to 5 wins, draws counting, of course, well, that will decide the victor. And this is game 4. I decided I will show only game 4 as it's the one I thought it would be the most interesting to show. You are welcome to check out all the other games. I will put the links to their official streams in the description below. There will be a link to Carlsen's stream, so you can watch that. You can also watch stream with Svidler's commentary, so you can watch that. It's some 2 hours watching material combined, so you know it's a Monday go wild. And also, I will include a third link, but I will mention that at the end of the game. So without further ado, this is game 4. We're going to talk about the results of the match. After I show you the game, Svidler goes for e4. Carlsen goes c5, the Sicilian defense, knight to f3, knight to c6, and for those of you, sorry about that, who are wondering about the title, we'll get to that. And here Carlsen mentions in the stream, you are about to see that if you visit the link, that Svidler most likely will not go for d4 against him, and Svidler does not. He goes for knight to c3. We have e5 by Carlsen, now taking this advantage of taking hold of the d4 square, but also making a hole on the d5 square for white to use. And there we have it again, the elusive green square. Bishop to c4 by Svidler, and now g6. And here, Carlsen said that he had this position in his game against Maxim Vachier-Lagrave in 2018 in round 1 of the Sinfield Cup, where Maxim went immediately for h4 and h5, but here Svidler goes for a different line. He goes for d3, we have h6 by Carlsen, and now comes knight to d2. We have d6 by Carlsen, and now knight to f1. Now Svidler's knight is coming all the way to e3, and from there both knights will be controlling not this square, but the d5 square. And we have bishop to g7, and it was somewhere around this point that Carlsen mentioned that, to put it delicately, that this is an FU factor variation, as black sort of a black can play like this and still be okay. But you know, feel free to check it out to get the full idea behind it. We have knight to e3. Now Svidler really controls the d5 square, and knight g to e7. We have castles by Svidler, castles by Carlsen, and now comes a3. The games I don't know if I mentioned are blitz. It's a 5+0, so no increment. You have to be watchful of your time. Carlsen now plays king h7. He wants to get his king off of this diagonal so he can push the f5 pawn. Knight e to d5, grabbing control of the d5 square. Carlsen exchanges once, knight captures, and now he can finally push f5. We have e captures on f5, and now not g captures. Carlsen says that f4 for white would weaken black's position too much, especially since it's a blitz game. So bishop captures on f5. Bishop to d2, developing the bishop, and queen to d7. Now Carlsen says that he's feeling more and more okay in his position. He's preparing to play this queen d7. The bishop is coming to e6, and Carlsen will now also start to fight for the d5 square. We have b4 by Svidler. Now comes bishop to e6, and b captures on c5. D captures on c5, and now comes knight to e3. Now the problem for black, as black now uses this very nice diagonal to get rid of his weak isolated e5 pawn. Here Carlsen pushes e4, the rook is under attack, and now comes rook to b1. And here bishop captures on c4. We have d captures on c4, knight captures on c4 is also possible, but with d captures on c4 also this will again create a nice outpost for the knight on d5. So d captures on c4, and now comes rook a to d8. Now Carlsen is threatening to win material here with queen captures on d2, and we have knight to d5, just a very nice outpost for Svidler's knight, but there is a problem. Carlsen goes knight to e5, pressuring the c4 pawn, and here Svidler defends it, but it's not enough. Here, for the first time in this video, feel free to pause the video and try to find the best continuation for black. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations. You are an excellent, taker of the advantages left by white. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, knight captures on c4. As we already mentioned, the queen e2 move is not enough to guard the c4 pawn. And now queen must capture. So queen captures on c4, and now comes queen captures on d5, and to make matters worse, you also have to exchange queens because the bishop on d2 is hanging. So queen captures, rook captures. Now again, you don't have time to grab b7 as the bishop on d2 is still hanging, bishop to e3, and now Carlsen consolidates with b6. So if you look at the position now, bishops of same colors, both players have 2 rooks, and Carlsen is up a pawn. Both players 3 pawn islands, so it will be an interesting endgame, especially since it's blitz. We have a4. Svidler wants to get rid of his isolated pawn, and he wants to exchange it for Carlsen's b pawn. And Carlsen does not wish to allow this. He goes bishop to c3 to take control of the a5 square. So bishop to c3, rook f to d1, offering a trade of rooks, and now rook f to d8. Carlsen doesn't mind, but he wants to trade rooks on his own terms. Rook captures, and now king to f1. Svidler starts to bring the king into the game. We have h5 by Carlsen. He also wants to bring the king into the game, but first he wants to get rid of this h-pawn being a constant target. You could also, instead of h6, go g5, but then your pawns are on dark squares, which still makes them targets, and white could block the position completely with g4. So Carlsen goes h5, and also I believe he mentioned during the stream that he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of a lot of people by playing g5 instead of h5, and just in case it turns out that it's bad. King e2, we have king g7. Now Carlsen also starts to bring his king into the game. Rook to b3, pressuring the bishop, bishop to a5. Carlsen mentioned that it's might not be the best square for the bishop, but that it gets the job done. Still, white doesn't have the option of pushing any pawns, and here Svidler goes for rook to b5. And Carlsen mentions that he's sort of threatening c4. But not. I didn't really understand what was the threat behind c4, and it's still not all that clear to me. But here Carlsen has a pretty simple plan. He plays bishop to b4, and now the threat is rook d6 and a6, trapping the rook on b5. So bishop to f4, not allowing rook to d6, but here Carlsen just brings the king deeper into the position. Svidler goes bishop to b8, attacking the a7 pawn, but now just rook to d7. We have king to e3 by Svidler, and here Carlsen just has a winning move. So once again, feel free to pause the video and try to find the winning idea for Carlsen. I will give you a couple of seconds as usual. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you have just defeated Peter Svidler, and for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook to b7 is the move Carlsen played, and it was in this position on move 34 that Peter Svidler resigned the game. The bishop has to move. Once you move the bishop, let's say any square, a6 is coming, the rook is trapped, and you have to go into this very, very bad endgame for black, where you will be down the exchange after pawn captures, and now white will win the e4 pawn, but then just black continues, and it's 5-5 pawns, but Carlsen has a rook against the bishop, and Svidler was also much lower on time. So he didn't drag it out after rook to b7, so Svidler simply resigned the game. So game 4 went to Carlsen, and the final score was 5.5 to half in Carlsen's favor. So they played 6 games. One of the games Svidler was able to draw, and Carlsen said that well, even before they asked him what are his chances in the match, and he said that he thinks his chances are good, but mostly because Svidler thinks too highly of Carlsen, and he doesn't realize how bad Magnus will actually play this. So in the first game Svidler was better, but then Carlsen just blundered the rook. Second game, I think, also pretty equalish, and then Carlsen was just able to win it. Third game was a draw. Then comes this very nice victory by Carlsen, and then two other victories make the result 5.5 to half. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it, and that's, in blitz it's very hard to counter Carlsen, but as far as the classical chess goes, not that, but here we have, as you can see, Svidler still has a positive result against Magnus Carlsen in classical chess: 2 wins, 1 loss, and 15 draws. Carlsen had an opportunity in last year's European Club Cup when they played, but it was also a draw. At least Svidler can still boast to that. And also, it's really a very important game, the one Svidler won against Carlsen in the 2013 Candidates Tournament. I don't know if you were a subscriber on this channel when we were covering the short Carlsen saga, where we covered the 2013 Candidates Tournament and his match against Viswanathan Anand. But if you haven't, also the third link in the description below will be the one where Svidler plays against Carlsen in the 2013 Candidates. Also a very nice game, and a very important one. Almost became a historic one at that. So yeah, and like I mentioned, first and second link will be a direct link to the stream by Magnus Carlsen and or Peter Svidler from their own streams of this match, so you can enjoy all the professional comments as well. So yeah, once again, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Mads Nasted Nielsen, Nazari Brenchuk, Jeremy Holbert, Zachary Stencil, and Benjamin Berkeley for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, hopefully with some more interesting content, continuing the Capablanca saga and checking up on whatever is going on in the chess world. Thank you all, and I will see you soon.